Hello there and welcome to this short presentation on the SIMS autumn release. What I'm going to cover off on this particular session is an update on the school workforce census. We're going to take a look at the release content for the autumn release of SIMS, FMS and Discover. Take a brief look at the SIMS Next Generation, or SIMS Primary and SIMS Finance as they're known, and then one or two other items of news I'd just like to share with you. So to begin with the school workforce census, we've been delivering support face-to-face by webinar and by remote support sessions. Many schools have taken advantage of those and been well received, which is great. The documentation, as ever, is up on the OSMIS website, and feel free to go and have a look at that should you need it. But if you do need any help, please do log a call. It's not too late. Yeah, so do keep in touch if you need any further help on the workforce census. The autumn 2018 release from Capita was made available on the 1st of November. It's our intention to release it to schools on the 16th of November. How you'll get it is a matter for your individual arrangements. Schools which take the OSMIS remote upgrade service will have the upgrades applied over the weekend, 16th to the 18th of November. There's a couple of trusts that have an arrangement to request it so they can fix the date and deal with any workstation issues in an organised fashion. Those schools should complete the usual form and will do it in accordance with their wishes. Other schools should contact the usual technical support providers and have the updates to SIMS, FMS and Discover applied using Solus 3. I do say updates to SIMS, FMS and Discover. The fact of the matter is there are no updates in this release to FMS or Discover, but they need to be upgraded just to keep them in step with the other parts of the system. So in SIMS, we've got some new features. We've got CTF messaging. We've got the SIMS core updates. We've got some updates on the assessment program of study, and the functionality for the spring census is also delivered as part of this release. Many of you will know very well that there was a bug in the autumn 2017 release of SIMS. It may have introduced the following errors on the import of CTF contact information. So it may have incorrectly linked contacts with students in your database. It may have added incorrect addresses for contacts and replaced the ones that were there. It may have added email addresses and telephone numbers, which are also inappropriate and incorrect for that particular contact. Obviously, if you're using text-to-parent solutions, all that's very, very serious. Whilst the summer release stopped things getting any worse, all schools must satisfy themselves that they didn't fall foul of the problem between the autumn 2017 release and the summer 2018 release. So most schools have already done this, but if you have not done this, you'll see that message on the screen there the first time you log in following the application of the autumn release. It's a message that's familiar to many. So you'll get that message on the screen if you have not already run the necessary checks. If you do get that message, you do need to run these checks. It's not so hard. All you need to do is to run a thing called database diagnostics. It does take some time, but we do recommend that you run it at the end of the day when nobody else is using SIMS in any big way. You simply go Tools, System Diagnostics, and Database Diagnostics. After a while, you'll get a report listing any problems that it's found. At the bottom of that list of reported issues, there'll be check ID 99 issues, right? That's the one we need to look at for this particular problem. If it's in black, then it has run the check and you have nothing to worry about. Okay, so that indicates that there are no problems which may have been introduced by the bug with the autumn 2017 release. If it's in red, you'll see some error details at the bottom, in the bottom half of the screen there, and it will list a bunch of contacts which you will need to pay attention to. So what you'll need to do is to open up those contacts, verify that they are correctly linked to the appropriate students, verify that their home address, their email address, and their telephone numbers are all recorded correctly. If they are, don't worry too much, because it might well be that although it suspects there may be a problem, that there isn't, right? So you may not be able to get rid of all of the issues, but you just need to satisfy yourself that the information that you record in your SIM system is unaffected by the problem with the CTF errors that were introduced with the autumn release. Okay. So as I say, you should satisfy yourself that the information stored correctly linked students, addresses, emails, and telephone numbers for any contacts listed as potential problems is correct. You can then disable the CTF messaging by going into Routines, Data Out, CTF, Export CTF, which is where you'll see this particular screen. Okay, so by ticking the box there, you confirm that you've applied the appropriate patches, which are contained in the autumn release, that you've run the diagnostic check, and you've checked the list 99 errors. You've taken any necessary remedial action, and a cleanup script has been applied. Now, the cleanup script is not necessary. There is no need to worry about not having done it. We will continue to deploy that cleanup script. All that's doing is getting rid of some rubbish in the background, which will not cause you any issues. So once you've checked to make sure that the contact details are as they should be, you can tick the box and then proceed to use SIMS as normal. One or two updates that are coming with the SIMS release. Medical conditions are now added to the bulk update routine. So if you get a routine student bulk update, you'll now find that you can update the medical conditions for any group of pupils in the school rather than going into every pupil record. When you are recording a medical condition on a pupil record, an extra tick box is now added to the system, indicating that a link to an SEN issue is present. So if the medical condition is related to the SEN need, then you can put a tick in the box there. The information received date is no longer mandatory, so you can now get away with it, filling that information received date. The SEN screens have also had a bit of a tidy up in that the panels are now directly below the panel heading. It's a minor point, but it does give you some more space on the screen to see what the heck's going on. And also the statement of code is now completely inactive. The last census return was the last one where you could report an excluded pupil who had a statement. So that's no longer available. So we're down to E, N, and K codes now. The enhancements continue in the bulk deleted pupil data. This is something that we introduced in the summer release and updated in the autumn release. So it's all to do with GDPR and making sure that you're not storing information that you don't have a need for. There's another 3 areas of data that have now been added to the deletion routine, and they are active directory provisioning, which is used by some schools, the communication log, and the presence of any interventions. They can now be deleted from the bulk delete pupil data area. As I say, the SEN screens are redesigned to make better use of space. But the biggest function that's added to the system by the autumn release is in Assessment Manager. And this is the ability to export and import program of study configurations. Okay? So many schools were interested in the program of study, but they found it too onerous. There were too many descriptions, too many statements that had to be assessed far too often. Sometimes didn't like the terminology of exceeding mastery. Now that it's been possible to customize both the grades and the content for a while, so you can go focus, assessment, program study management, and manage grades, and you can change those 5 grades to any values you wish, and you can also change the color if you particularly need a different color to indicate whether the pupil's making satisfactory progress or not. You can also customize the statements and can in fact create your own strands and subjects. Here on the screen, I've got an example of an RE strand. There's no national curriculum stuff from the DfE for RE, but it is possible to create those. But it does take some time. You've got to type the stuff in, or at least copy and paste it from Word or another source. Now, with the autumn release, you will be able to edit the information on one system and then share it across a number of schools. So if you're in a trust and you've got a common approach to a particular area of assessment, you can actually use this for all sorts of different purposes too. But if you've got a common approach to the recording and what you're going to assess pupils on, then you can have a common configuration which is generated and maintained by one school and then shared with all the others. Okay, so if you are interested in that sort of thing, then please do give us a call. We'd be delighted to go through it in more detail. We do feel that it does have legs, and many schools are now moving away from the assessing without level solutions they previously went with, for whatever reason, and this may well be worthy of reconsideration. Okay, so you can share the configurations between schools, and we at OSMIS would be more than happy to work with a number of schools if there was a common approach which could be used by a number. The autumn release also delivers functionality to complete the spring census. The enumeration date, 3rd Thursday in January 2019. Once again, it's got to collect the exclusions from the summer term 2018. Preschool eligibility collected from the day after the last census to the date of this census. For secondary schools, then learner support is going to be collected from the 1st of August through to the 17th of January. One or two changes. Proficiency in English is removed. The absentees report is now based on an absence rate of less than 10%, where it was 14 sessions. Alternative provision placements report has now been removed. And the terminology used by the DFE for early years pupil premium data has changed from eligibility to receipt, to try and make it clearer that the pupils must be in receipt of early years pupil premium rather than just eligible. There's a consequential change in the codings that you'll see in the software, which will try to make this a bit clearer. And we will, of course, be in touch nearer the time, early in the new year, just to let you know of those changes. A little bit of an update on the SIMS next generation. This you'll see in the news. It's also the SIMS Primary and the SIMS Finance. SIMS next generation, it's big, complicated, and very, very hard to do. I have every sympathy for colleagues at Capita. However, the migration of school data continues to throw up many, many problems. People have been using SIMS in ways which were not expected, and it's becoming more and more evident that the migration of data from existing systems, SIMS 7 up to SIMS 8, is not going to be straightforward at all. They are working very hard to try and make the system as automated and slick as it can be, as it needs to be, but we're still running into problems there. There have been changes in underlying systems required to produce reports, so they were going to report on a copy of the SIMS data. That's now been abandoned. The infrastructure's been changed, so there have been delays in the production of SIMS Primary. The following reports, however, are already there. So what they've done is they've taken the approach that they will build a suite of reports which schools who are evaluating SIMS Primary can use out the box. And that does look like a fairly big list, but it is by no means comprehensive, and you still don't have the ability to build the reports with the level of complexity and let's see, you wouldn't be able to build particular reports to meet your needs using SIMS Primary yet. So it isn't mature, and I don't feel that it's necessarily something that many schools will be able to take on board in its present form. But they're continuing to develop it, and we're continuing to work with Capita. The roadmap indicates that sometime next year we might well be able to recommend the movement to SIMS Primary, and we'll continue to communicate this with schools. This is the Capita rollout roadmap. So they're hoping to have 50 schools advocating the use of the software by the end of December 2018, with around 1,000 schools using it by the end of March. We will continue to work with Capita and do our level best to make sure that we can achieve those targets. In terms of SIMS Finance, that's a little more successful. Capita has taken its IBS product and reskinned it for use in schools. They already have 59 sites using it. Functionally, it's not quite there yet for the majority of maintained schools, but it's certainly an option worthy of consideration for MATs. We are, as I think I'll say in a moment. So we're one of a couple of teams north of Birmingham who have evaluated it. We've been trained on it. We know about it. We're working closely with colleagues in implementing it in a number of schools. In terms of SIMS Primary, we remain committed to supporting Capita the successful delivery of an early rollout program of one of 6 teams working this closely with Capita to support the rollout of SIMS Primary. However, we are concerned that Capita continues to slip up on release dates, and we don't want to waste anyone's time. So what we're going to do now is just declare a moratorium. Let's get on with Christmas, and we will provide further updates to school early in 2019. In other news, SIMS teacher app users particularly will be affected by the removal or the retirement of access control services by Microsoft. We will need to update, or somebody will need to update the SIMS Services Manager. It's technical, but somebody needs to do some work on the server in order for users of SIMS teacher app particularly to continue to use that software without interruption. We will mail all schools towards Christmas as soon as we have the updates which will need to be applied. But that's something we need to keep an eye on, and we need to make sure we do it by the end of February 2019. In terms of GDPR, Capita have taken the decision not to progress too much further with the development of routines to delete unwanted data. The autumn release gives you another 3 areas, but there's all sorts of problems. If you delete a people record, say, and that people had a dinner money record, then obviously your audit trails up the Swanee, and it would actually remove all the transactions from the system, resulting in an unreconcilable system. So there's all sorts of other scenarios which would cause issues. So now what they're doing is looking at anonymizing data. So rather than seeing the pupil name, the pupil name will be replaced with a value that can be determined by the school. So rather than saying John Alcock, it'll say ZZ GDPR removed or whatever you choose to type in there. It'll change dates and just automatically make any date on the child's record or the staff record the first day of the month, and any free text fields will be anonymized by simply replacing all the text with X's. So it'll be a similar sort of routine. They are well on with it. So we're looking forward to working with Capita and with schools in getting that up to speed, and schools using it successfully in order to comply with general data protection regulation requirements. In terms of Osmis news, the Osmis service desk continues to be well regarded by schools. All KPI targets are met or exceeded. We're doing quite well. I don't touch wood and all that. But at the moment, we do have 100% satisfaction rate, which is unheard of. It's wonderful. We do work very hard and we enjoy working with you. We've now got more than 21,000 calls on the system, and satisfaction levels are maintained or enhanced. However, our systems are now 6 years old. We've moved on, things have moved on, and we understand the systems more, to be honest, and we'd like to do more with it. So what we're going to do is, over the Christmas break, we're going to be rebuilding our service desk software to help us improve services, and we will communicate further information nearer to the time. But we'll hope you'll find some improvements, and everything will be a little slicker. You'll certainly get some more management information so that you can evaluate our service rather more empirically. However, the Capita service desk is struggling. We've noticed a significant downturn in the quality of response we receive, where we've got to escalate calls on behalf of schools to the Capita support desk, particularly in respect of calls related to SIMS online products, where we do suspect they're shorter skills, and the more complicated areas. We continue to work with Capita to try and improve matters. We've come up with some suggestions on how they could improve efficiencies down there, and we're working closely with colleagues in other local support areas, other support teams, in ensuring that we can minimise the load on the desk whilst it sorts itself out. However, you may have been unfortunate in logging a call for support with us recently, which hasn't been answered in the way you would expect it to, or the timescale you would expect it to be responded to in. But we can only apologise on behalf of Capita. But we rest assured we are doing all we can to apply carrot and stick methods to make sure that they pull the socks up. In terms of the website and communications, the Osmis site continues to be the envy of many. Many of you use it. In fact, if you have a look at a little map of the UK there, all the grey areas are areas that access the Osmis website. And I don't think we've got any schools in Powys, but anyway. We are looking at an overhaul of the website for Christmas. It's always time to mess with it. I can't resist it. Feedback's welcomed as always. If you've got some ideas about how we can improve any aspect of our service to you, please do let us know. Communication is important. It's constantly a source of concern. We'll send some important communications, for example, the common transfer file issue, the presence of a new file set for census. We need to make sure that everybody in schools is aware of the stuff they need to know, and it's our job to try and get you to know that. But a lot of the mails that we send out do go unopened. So is there any other way we can communicate more effectively with you out in schools? We're considering using Twitter. We have floated it in the past. Most people didn't seem too keen, but we're going to have another crack with it. We've now added a Twitter feed to the Osmis homepage for review purposes. Your thoughts would be appreciated, and as ever, please do keep in touch. Please give us any feedback you can. But for now, that's I think all I've got to say. Please keep your eye on the Osmis website for late changing information. And thank you very much for your time. Do-do-do-do-do-do.